10. Lavender Harvester. Known for its vibrant purple, pleasant aroma, and health benefits, lavender is a popular commodity. It has countless uses, including aromatherapy, skin, and hair care. It's also a natural remedy for insomnia, and it's simply just nice to look at. The lavender industry has been around for hundreds of years, and farmers have had to come up with ways to harvest growing quantities in less time in order to keep up with all the demand. Some small producers still reap lavender by hand, while others use a small cart called a harvest buggy. But these methods won't cut it for someone who wants to take their lavender farming business to the next level. For that, there are specialized industrial machines that quickly and efficiently collect the fragile flowers without destroying them. Lavender harvesters contain an elaborate combination of parts that safely lift and cut plants when they're ready for collection. The machine's also ideal for harvesting chamomile and other medicinal herbs. 9. Olive Harvester. The olive industry sprang out of southern Europe's Mediterranean region. These countries, which include modern-day Spain, Italy, Morocco, Turkey, and Greece, are now the world's biggest producers. In the last few centuries, oil farming spread to other parts of the world as well, including California and South America. The majority of olives grown throughout the world are used for making oil. Some of the smaller producers still pick their olives by hand out of tradition. To speed up the process a little, they sometimes use what's called an electric comb or a hand-operated shaking machine. But even with the help of a small device, picking olives by hand is labor-intensive and takes up a lot of time. Owners of large olive farms often rely on an oil harvesting machine, which is equipped with mechanical arms that grab and shake trees at a high frequency. Another part of the machine collects the olives after they've fallen. Some olive harvesting machines are able to do both of these tasks simultaneously, but they only work on young trees and flat land. Collecting olives from older trees or on less flat terrain typically requires the use of a device called a log shaker. According to a Sicily-based olive farm company called Il Cercolo, harvesting olives by hand is the best way to ensure the production of quality oil because it helps single out olives that are ripe for picking. Mechanical collection is a more forceful process, often causing olives to fall to the ground and break apart, which speeds up fermentation. But it's much cheaper than picking by hand, since it saves time, maximizes quantity, and gets the job done with less work. 8. The world's biggest hay baler. Generally speaking, there are two different types of balers used to collect hay: cylindrical machines which make round bales, and rectangular machines which pump out the more common square bales. Square bales are easier and safer to stack and move, and they maximize space usage inside barns. Round bales are more weather resistant and can be left to the mercy of the elements for longer periods. An average round bale of hay measures 5 by 6 feet and weighs about 1,500 pounds. Its dimensions and weight vary based on whether it's a hardcore or softcore bale, which usually refers to how tightly packed the hay is. As the baler picks the hay up from the field and feeds it to the bale chamber, the hay rolls into a big round bale. In addition to harvesting hay, these machines can be used for collecting other crops like cotton, flax straw, salt marsh hay, and more. In 2019, Vogel Engineering announced the exciting debut of the world's biggest hay baler. Designed by TJ Steele of Favor 5 Ag Innovations, the cylindrical baling machine carried out an out-of-season test baling session during a snowy day. According to the project's team members, the baler still managed to produce a 9 by 9 foot bale of hay weighing 5,600 pounds. Since the machine's early development, its designers have been working to improve on its design capabilities. 7. In-row weeder. If you've ever grown a small garden, then you probably have a bit of experience weeding plants. And for a tiny plant, it's not actually that much work to keep up with. But of course, the bigger the garden, the more work it is to pick weeds, and at some point it becomes unrealistic to try and do it by hand. Luckily, modern technology makes it possible to weed entire fields of crops with pinpoint accuracy, ensuring that the weed is yanked while the plant remains unharmed. One of the most advanced machines for getting this job done is the in-row weeder. which utilizes video image analysis techniques to find and safely remove weeds. The weeder was originally built for use with transplanted crops like lettuce, cabbage, and celery, but it can be used with almost all crops that are planted and spaced out in a normal fashion. According to the company that makes the machine, it removes weeds with an accuracy rate of 8 millimeters away from the plant stem. The in-row weeder is an expensive piece of equipment though, with prices for a new or slightly used machine reaching into the $70,000 and up range. But it pays for itself before long, by saving on the cost and time of manual labor, with no major sacrifices when it comes to the quality of harvested plants. 6. Claas Cougar. Designed and built by a German farm machine manufacturer named Claas, the Cougar mower officially made its debut back in 2003 at the Agritechnica convention in Germany. With a maximum cutting width of 46 feet, it's considered one of the world's largest self-propelling mowers. During the convention, the Cougar even won the Machine of the Year award. The machine was built for retail sale between 2005 and 2009. Only about 100 were ever completed, making it a rare piece of equipment. Since production of the Cougar was suspended, plenty of manufacturers have had a chance to try beating its record for the largest self-propelled mower. But nobody's taken up the title, leaving the Cougar in the #1 position for now. The next biggest machine is the Krone Big M450, which has a mowing width of 32.6 feet. Would you try to mow a lawn with the Claas Cougar? Let us know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos. 5. Claas Disco 1100 RC. As of August 2021, the Claas Disco 110 RC was the largest tractor-mounted mower conditioner on the agricultural market. That same month, its company announced that it had set the new world record for a mount mowed within 8 hours. The blade was mounted onto a Claas Axion 870 tractor, which is an impressive piece of equipment in and of itself that was designed with maximum comfort and fuel efficiency in mind. Over the 8-hour window for the new record, the driver of the machine mowed 348.7 acres of grass. In a statement announcing the achievement, the company said that the record was not achieved without tremendous effort. The starting time was delayed for 2 hours due to rain, and the driver ended up stopping twice to make sure he didn't damage a mower blade after hitting a chunk of concrete. In hopes of making the record official, the company mailed their claims and all of the evidence to the Guinness Book of World Records Committee for confirmation. 4. Case IH Steiger Quadtrac 620. At first, the Case IH Quadtrac 620 looks like an oversized military vehicle or some type of construction equipment. With an industry-leading 680 horsepower engine, it's one of the world's most powerful tractors. It's also very heavy, weighing in at almost 58,900 pounds. And if you haven't already noticed, it has 4 tracks instead of wheels. According to the Irish Farmer's Journal, the tracks spread the tractor's weight over a larger area than tires, giving it the advantage of a reduced footprint. In addition to its strength, the Steiger Quadtrac 620 meets rigorous fuel emission standards, minimizing pollution while saving about $1,000 in fuel costs every year. It also reaches speeds up to 25 miles per hour. Knowing how backbreaking farm work can be, the machine's designers have put a major emphasis on comfort. Newer Steiger series tractors are equipped with a swiveling leather seat that can be heated, and it also has a cooling mechanism. The Quadtrac 620 costs anywhere from $279,000 for a used model to $619,000 for newer versions. 3. Krone Big X1180. A forage harvester is a large farm machine that harvests forage plants in order to make silage, which is grass, corn, or hay that's been chopped into smaller pieces for silo storage. After that, it's fermented to make feed for livestock animals. There are many different types of forage harvesters. Some are separate components that are simply attached to tractors, while others are entire vehicles of their own. If you've ever driven past a farm and seen what looks like hay spewing out the back of a machine, you are most likely seeing a forage harvester, or a chopper for short. The Kronbig X1180 claims to be the world's most powerful machine of its kind. Launched back in 2018, it's equipped with a powerful yet low-emission 12-cylinder engine with a maximum horsepower of 1,156. Most of the time, bulky machines are difficult and inconvenient to handle. But the Big X1180 was designed with maneuverability and comfort put first, and the overall goal of making the job as easy as possible without sacrificing on quality. The forage harvester also boasts a high output and mechanical reliability, since having a machine break down severely hampers a day's work. 2. Grimm Varitron 470 Potato Harvester. A potato harvester is almost exactly what it sounds like, a machine that harvests potatoes. Generally speaking, these machines collect 2 to 4 rows of spuds at a time. There are 2 main types of harvester: a potato spinner, which is operated manually, and a machine which does the heavy lifting. Potato spinners are falling out of use nowadays, mainly because they're obsolete and most large-scale harvesting is done using machines. In what may classify as the strangest looking vehicle in this video, the Grimm Varitron 470 is a self-propelled 4-row potato harvester. It's designed to separate taters from the soil on its own, reducing the amount of work that needs to be done by hand. This strange-looking piece of equipment is more advanced than the initial 2-row harvesters that we used years ago. While many farmers once owned 2 harvesters that could collect 2 rows of potatoes each, the Varitron 470 does the same amount of work by itself, more efficiently too. Weighing about 75,000 pounds fully loaded, it's a huge piece of equipment. The machine can measure as much as 51.2 feet long, 12.7 feet wide, and 13 feet high. It's not the world's biggest harvester, but it was until that title was taken by Grimm's 4-row Ventor 4150 in 2017. 1. World's biggest combine harvester. A combine harvester, or a combine for short, is a machine designed for harvesting grain crops like wheat, rice, oats, rye, barley, corn, sorghum, soybeans, flax, and more. Historically speaking, this machine was a major game changer. It does the same amount of work that used to require multiple people at a time, and it's only continued to make life easier for farmers as advancements continue to be made. Modern versions of the combine are capable of operating with speed and efficiency that farmers once thought were unthinkable. But the development of the combine didn't come without any problems. One of the biggest ongoing issues with these machines is the tendency for their engines to catch on fire. The mechanisms behind these fires are not fully understood yet, but it's believed that static electricity may be a major factor. It's hard to appreciate just how large some combines are without seeing one for yourself. In 2020, the Claas Lexion 8900 took first place as the world's largest combine harvester. It's equipped with a 4,755-gallon grain tank that's capable of emptying in 100 seconds or less. The Lexion 8900 is a top pick among farmers who have large crops to harvest and need to get it done quickly. During the same year, John Deere debuted its X9 combine harvester, which is the biggest machine of its kind made by the company. It has a 45% higher harvesting capacity than the average combine while using 20% less fuel. The largest combine harvester of all time, though, is the Tribine T1000. In addition to having the ability to run for 24 hours straight, it weighs 23 tons and is capable of carrying its own weight in grain. This groundbreaking piece of machinery was created by a 76-year-old businessman from Indiana named Ben Dillon, who took some unconventional approaches after the vehicle class remained largely unchanged since World War II. The Tribine T1000 was first introduced to the world not long ago in 2016. In the years since, thousands of hours of work have gone into improving its design. Today, the machine is now proudly equipped with the world's largest grain bin. 8. The Bell Witch. One of the most well-known examples of Appalachian folklore is the story of the Bell Witch. During the early 19th century, The family of a farmer named John Bell Sr. was repeatedly attacked by an invisible entity at their property in Robertson County, Tennessee. The Bells lived along the Red River near the modern-day town of Adams, where they eventually came to own 328 acres of property. Strange things began happening in 1817 when Bell encountered a creature in his cornfield that he later described as having a rabbit's head and a dog's body. He said that he shot at the animal, but that it got away. Shortly after this first encounter, the family began hearing beating sounds on the outside of their log home. The noises became increasingly frequent and forceful sounding over the following several nights, and the family also began to hear the faint whispering of an elderly woman who became known as the Bell Witch. Meanwhile, the Bell children complained of hearing rats gnawing at their bedposts and having their bed covers and pillows ripped away by an unexplained presence. The youngest daughter, Betsy, was affected the worst. On numerous occasions, the spirit pulled her hair, slapped her, and otherwise physically assaulted her. Word of the haunting spread, even catching the attention of future President and then Major General Andrew Jackson, who visited the Bell's property. As he approached, his wagon abruptly stopped. His horses were mysteriously unable to continue pulling it. After being stuck for several minutes, Jackson proclaimed that it must be the Bell Witch. Many believe that the Bell Witch was the ghost of a former neighbor of the Bells named Kate Batts. Before Kate died, she swore vengeance on the Bells due to a property dispute between the two families. Rumors continue to swirl to this day about similar manifestations haunting the property. 7. The murders of Jeff Hood and Molly LaRue. While hiking the 2,180-mile Appalachian Trail in September 1990, a young couple named Jeffrey Hood and Molly LaRue spent the night at the Thelma Mark shelter on Cove Mountain near Perry, Pennsylvania. The next morning, the pair were found murdered inside the shelter. In what was later described as a gruesome case of overkill, Jeff Hood had been shot 3 times and Molly LaRue had been viciously stabbed. Her hands were bound and the rope was also wrapped around her neck. Hood and LaRue were known for being a wholesome, virtuous couple who were intent on making a difference in the world during their lifetimes. Sadly, they never got the chance because their lives were snuffed out 3 months into their Appalachian journey. 1 week after the brutal double homicide, authorities arrested a 38-year-old drifter named Paul David Cruz in connection with the crime. Cruz had a long history of mental illness, drug abuse, and threatening behavior, and he was charged with murder 4 years prior to killing Hood and LaRue for the killing of a woman in Florida. He'd been on the run ever since and was finally caught during an intensive manhunt following the double murder along the Appalachian Trail. After deliberating for just 45 minutes, a jury convicted Cruz of Hood and LaRue's murders. He was sentenced to 2 life terms without parole and died in prison from natural causes in 2022 at the age of 70. In the wake of the couple's tragic deaths, the Thelma Mark shelter was taken down and a new one was built nearby. 6. Brown Mountain Lights. Reports of ghastly lights near Brown Mountain in North Carolina date back to before the Civil War. But there was a noticeable spike in sightings around 1910, roughly the same time electrical lighting became widespread near Brown Mountain. The lights are still seen to this day, with most sightings being reported in Burke County, roughly 60 to 70 miles north of Asheville. From the very beginning, there were doubts that the lights were caused by any sort of supernatural phenomenon. One skeptic, U.S. Geological Survey scientist George R. Mansfield, was able to prove in 1922 that most of the lights could be attributed to trains, car headlights, and brush fires. The lights were studied by U.S. government personnel on at least 2 other occasions, as well as by private groups. But storytellers and believers alike have sought to keep the legend alive, and they've been largely successful in doing so. Thousands of people have claimed to see the lights, which were featured in an episode of The X-Files in 1999 and inspired the 2014 film Alien Abduction. But the legends surrounding the lights have changed over time, and they tend to reflect cultural trends in noticeable ways. While many people refuse to think that the lights couldn't possibly be the product of folklore, all signs point toward them being exactly that. 5. The murder of Ronald S. Sanchez Jr. In 2019, Iraq War veteran Ronald S. Sanchez Jr. set off along the Appalachian Trail in search of peace. His mission was interrupted after reaching Southwest Virginia in May of that year, when he was fatally stabbed by a 30-year-old mentally unstable hiker from Massachusetts named James L. Jordan. After receiving an emergency GPS signal, police encountered a dog along the Appalachian Trail. The pup led them to Jordan, who admitted to killing Sanchez and severely wounding the victim's hiking companion with a 20-inch knife. Authorities charged Jordan with murder. Meanwhile, word of the unprovoked act of violence spread throughout the close-knit hiking community. It was one of the worst attacks to occur along the Appalachian Trail in decades, and the 10th murder in the 45 years that officials have been keeping records. And while hikers were left shaken and alarmed, most vowed not to let the incident stop them from starting or finishing their journey along the trail. During Jordan's trial, an expert witness for the prosecution testified that the defendant suffered from a severe psychiatric illness that features psychosis and mood disorder. The judge overseeing the case found Jordan not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered for him to be committed to a psychiatric institution, where he'll remain until or unless he's deemed to no longer be a substantial threat to society. Furthermore, the judge concluded that Jordan lacked the ability to differentiate between right and wrong when he committed the horrific stabbing, and that he didn't appreciate the wrongfulness of his actions. Through his attorney, Jordan apologized and expressed deep remorse for the profound sorrow he caused. Do you think you'll go hiking anytime soon after watching this video? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. 4. Appalachian serial killer Robert Manford Jr. and Laura Susan Ramsey were brutally murdered in 1981 while hiking the Appalachian Trail. The suspect, Randall Lee Smith, pleaded guilty to 2 charges of second-degree murder. In doing so, he avoided a trial and was therefore spared from having the gruesome details of the double homicide as well as his motive revealed to the public. Smith received a 30-year prison sentence but was paroled in 1996 after serving 15 years. The victims' families and the hiking community were outraged by his release, but their protests failed to stop Smith from being freed. Lo and behold, Smith struck again in 2008, 2 years after his parole ended. Less than 2 miles from where he killed Manford and Ramsey, he befriended 2 fishermen. They kindly shared their dinner of trout and beans with Smith, who thanked them by pulling a gun without warning and firing 2 bullets into each victim. Thankfully, both men survived. Smith stole the victim's truck and attempted to escape, but he crashed the vehicle and was arrested the following day. In the meantime, the fishermen identified him as their attacker based on a missing persons poster featuring his photograph. The 54-year-old was charged with 2 counts of attempted capital murder, grand larceny, and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. He was unfortunately never brought to justice. Just 4 days after committing the heinous act, Smith died in jail from injuries he sustained when he crashed the stolen truck. The outcome of the situation left the community reeling as they struggled to understand Smith's bizarre behavior. Although he had a history of disagreements with his neighbors, he had no established pattern of violence leading up to his first violent crimes. Smith's motives for committing such horrific acts of violence remain unclear to this day. 3. Wild Man of the Woods. While traveling through Caldwell County, North Carolina's Globe Valley in 1877, a party of gold miners encountered what they would later describe as a wild man. The group said that they came within 40 yards of the so-called peculiar specimen of humanity, which they described as gigantic in form, standing at a height of at least 6 feet 5 inches. They said that the creature had a funnel-shaped head and that his entire body was covered in thick 2-inch long fur. The miners further claimed that once the wild man spotted them, he pounded his chest and then ran off into the forest with astonishing speed. While attempting to track the creature, the mining party found a cave deep in the mountains. It was filled with animal bones, indicating that the wild man had lived there for quite some time. This is just one of hundreds of reported wild man sightings throughout the region following the Civil War. There were different versions of the creature, as well as stories of feral humans known as the Wild Men of the Mountains. And while some people who live in the Appalachian region certainly abide by a more isolated lifestyle than most, there's no concrete evidence of either a hominid-like being or a population of wild humans. 2. The murder of Rebecca White. While camping in Pennsylvania's Michoud State Forest during their hike along the Appalachian Trail in 1988, 29-year-old Rebecca White was approached by a man, later identified as 22-year-old Stephen Roy Carr. He asked the woman for a cigarette and she said she didn't have one. White rushed over to her tent and told her partner, Claudia Brenner, that someone was near their campsite. The women decided to look for a more private campsite, but they ran into Carr again later that day while looking at their map. They continued along the trail and eventually decided upon a new campsite. Little did the couple know that Carr still had his eye on them, and he was watching them during a very private moment after dinner. While spying on the couple from 82 feet away, Carr fired his shotgun 8 times, hitting Brenner 5 times in the arm, face, head, and neck, and striking White twice in the head and back. Carr was under the impression that he'd killed both victims, but Brenner was still alive. Despite her injuries, she managed to walk 4 miles to the nearest road, where she hitched a ride to a police station. For the next 10 days, Carr hid in a Mennonite community, where residents typically didn't read the news or watch TV, and were therefore unaware that he was wanted for White's murder and for the attempted murder of Brenner. But his cover was blown when one of the members of the community watched the news and realized he was a fugitive. Authorities initially arrested Carr on a grand larceny warrant out of Florida. Once he was in custody, prosecutors pressed additional charges for the deadly shooting. At the time of the double homicide, he was living in a cave. Carr waived his right to a jury trial in exchange for getting the death penalty dropped. During his trial, he explained that he was enraged by the sight of 2 women being intimate with one another. He also claimed that the victims provoked him by being intimate with one another in front of him, although it's unlikely that they even knew that they were being watched. Carr's defense attorney pointed towards the accused killer's traumatic childhood and his history of being rejected by women as mitigating factors for his crime, but the judge was unmoved. The defendant ended up taking a plea deal and admitting to first-degree murder in exchange for a life sentence without parole. Brenner went on to write a book about her experience and became a vocal advocate against anti-gay violence. 1. The unsolved double murder of Julie Williams and Lolly Winans. During the summer of 1996, 26-year-old Laura Lolly Winans and 24-year-old Julianne Julie Williams went hiking near the Appalachian Trail in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. The couple's plan was to get some R&R before Julie started a new job in Vermont. They were last seen alive on May 24th, and their families reported their missing 6 days later. The next day, the women's murdered bodies were found at their campsite. Laura was in the couple's tent, and Julie was about 40 feet away on an embankment in her sleeping bag. Both women were gagged, with their hands bound and their throats cut. The couple's golden retriever Taj was found wandering nearby. Investigators have identified suspects over the years, but the horrific double murder remains unsolved. One of the prime suspects was a man named Darrell David Rice. In 2002, prosecutors charged Rice with Winans and Williams murders, claiming that the crime was the product of his homophobic and sexist rage. Rice denied any involvement in the double homicide, and authorities failed to connect him to any forensic evidence found at the crime scene, even though a witness claimed to see him in the area around the time the women were killed. The charges were ultimately dropped due to a lack of evidence. Police also suspected a man named Richard Evonitz of murdering Winans and Williams. But he died shortly before he was about to be charged in connection with 3 other homicides, and he took any secrets he may have been carrying to the grave. It's unclear whether he's been tied to any evidence from the crime scene, but for all intents and purposes, the identity of the women's killer remains unknown to this day.
Number 8. Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. In April 2011, construction began on the Grand Renaissance Dam in the Benishangul Gumuz region of Ethiopia. The Salina Construttori Company was awarded a $4.7 billion engineering, construction, and procurement contract to begin the project. Funded by the government and the people of Ethiopia, the dam is meant to serve the inhabitants of Egypt and Sudan as well, who largely rely on the Nile River for fresh water and trade. The dam's primary purpose is electricity production in order to relieve the acute energy shortage that's burdening Ethiopia, but it will also work as an electricity export for neighboring countries. While it's not finished yet, the Grand Renaissance Dam is slated to be the biggest hydroelectric power plant in Africa and will be among the 20 largest in the entire world. The team working on the project began filling the reservoir in July of 2020, and by August of that same year, the water level increased to 1,772 feet, a whopping 130 feet higher than the bottom of the river. The second phase of the project was completed on July 19, 2021, further increasing water levels of the Nile to 1,886 feet. On February 20, 2022, the Grand Renaissance Dam produced electricity for the first time, delivering power to the grid at a rate of 375 megawatts. Then in early August 2022, the reservoir was filled once again, bringing the river's depth to 1,969 feet. That same month, another 375 megawatt turbine was commissioned. The dam may have a long time to go before being fully completed, as tensions between Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan fester. Unless Ethiopia decides to sign an agreement that would protect the other country's interests and rights in the Nile waters, the project may be halted. Number 7. Site W. The Hanford site, also known as Site W, is a decommissioned nuclear production complex that's operated by the U.S. federal government. The facility occupies 586 square miles, which is about half of the total area of Rhode Island. The site is situated in a desert environment in an area that receives less than 10 inches of rainfall every year. It's located in Benton County along the Columbia River in the state of Washington, and it was established in 1943. Initiated as part of the Manhattan Project, the nuclear site housed the Hanford Engineer Works and B reactor, which was the world's first ever full-scale plutonium production reactor. Plutonium that was manufactured at the site was also utilized in the making of the first atomic bomb. Throughout the Cold War, which took place between 1947 and 1991, the project expanded to include 5 massive plutonium processing complexes and 9 nuclear reactors. The site then went on to produce most of the plutonium that was used in over 60,000 weapons that were created for the U.S. nuclear arsenal. During this period in history, nuclear technology was developing rapidly, and scientists working at the site managed to achieve major technical accomplishments when it came to production. But after a sufficient amount of plutonium had been produced, Site W's reactors were shut down, and the facility closed its doors for good in 1971. Unfortunately, though, many of the site's waste disposal practices and safety procedures were ineffective, resulting in the release of large amounts of radioactive materials into the Columbia River and into the air. Site W then quickly became the focus of the United States' largest environmental cleanup. Efforts to rid the site of radioactive materials were still ongoing in 2023, with more than 10,000 workers employed to help with the cleanup activities. Number 6. The Burj Khalifa. The Burj Khalifa, or the Burj Dubai as it was known prior to its 2010 inauguration, is the world's tallest building, located in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. The skyscraper, with a height of 2,722 feet, has been the tallest structure and building on the planet since it was topped out in 2009, surpassing the previous record holder in Taiwan, the Taipei 101, by more than 1,000 feet. Construction on the skyscraper began in 2004, and it only took 5 years of continuous work to complete the building's exterior in 2009. The Burj Khalifa's primary structure is made of reinforced concrete, and interestingly, some of the tower's structural steel was taken from the Palace of the Republic, the former parliament of East Germany. The building was opened to the public in 2010 as part of a new development project called Downtown Dubai. The skyscraper itself, however, was designed to be the center point of a large-scale mixed-use development. The plan to construct the Burj Khalifa was based on the government's decision to move away from an oil-based economy and for the city of Dubai to gain worldwide recognition for its architectural achievements. The skyscraper's name is in honor of Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the former president of the United Arab Emirates. The Burj Khalifa was designed by the same team that designed the Sears Tower in Chicago, led by Adrian Smith of Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, an American architectural, engineering, and urban planning firm. Some of the building's design was inspired by the Islamic architecture in the region, like the Great Mosque of Samarra. The tower's Y-shaped tripartite floor geometry was chosen in order to optimize hotel and residential space, and the Burj Khalifa's wings and buttressed central core are used to support the building's immense height. Number 5. Merdeka 118. Formerly known as the Warisan Merdeka Tower, Merdeka 118 is a 118-story skyscraper that's situated in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. At 2,227 feet tall, it's the second tallest building in the world and is also the second tallest structure, only surpassed by the Burj Khalifa, which towers over every other building on the planet at 2,717 feet. The building's name translates to independence and was inspired by the skyscraper's close proximity to Stadium Merdeka. Merdeka 118's spire was completed in October of 2021, but construction began 4 years earlier in August of 2017. At the time of writing in May of 2023, the building is slated to be finished sometime in 2024 or 2025. A mix of diamond-shaped glass facades was added to the building's design in order to signify the diversity of Malaysia. Merdeka 118 was inspired and built to resemble the outstretched hand of Tunku Abdul Rahman, who offered the gesture when he proclaimed on August 31, 1957, the independence of the country. In total, the building will consist of 18,144 panels, 1,600 tons of window frame extrusions, and 1,227,086 feet of glass. Once completed, Merdeka 118 will contain hotels, a mall, residential areas, and Grade A offices, whatever that means. Construction of Merdeka 118 was halted in March of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but work on the project resumed by the middle of May of that same year. In early June of 2021, the tower was 81% completed, and it was topped out in November. For the time being, work continues to be carried out on the tower, but once it's finished, it will stand as a monument to the Malaysian people, representing just how far the country has come in the last 60 years. Number 4. Buffalo Bills Stadium. According to BuffaloBills.com, construction for the new Buffalo Bills Stadium is slated to be finished by July of 2026, just in time for the 2026 NFL season. The massive open-air stadium will be built on a 242-acre site and will cover roughly 1.35 million square feet. Chris Brown, a Bills insider, says the stadium will be the biggest project in Western New York that's ever been built. In addition to the stadium, a 75,000 square foot ancillary building will also be constructed on the site. The Buffalo Bills are among the NFL's most skilled teams. The tailgating, table-breaking fan base is said to be one of the most dedicated groups in all of football. But for a while now, the team has been playing in an outdated venue, which is why there are now plans in place to build a brand new stadium. The new venue will be able to hold as many as 60,000 fans and will have an expandable capacity to house special events. Premium areas of the new stadium will include ledge seats, suites, clubs, and more luxurious seating products. The Buffalo Bills venue will also consist of state-of-the-art scoreboards and video, a team store, food service kitchens, concessions, locker rooms, and more. It will eventually be built in Orchard Park, where the team's current stadium is located, or in downtown Buffalo, New York. When the project moves forward, its $2.1 billion budget will certainly make it one of the largest construction projects in the world. Number 3. Goddard Base Tunnel. Construction for the Goddard Base Tunnel, or GBT, began on November 4, 1999, and it wasn't finished for 16 years. The GBT is a railway tunnel that runs through the Alps mountain range in Switzerland. In June of 2016, the tunnel opened, but it wouldn't offer full service until the following December. With a route length of 35.5 miles, it's the longest railway in the world and also holds the record for the deepest traffic tunnel. It's situated at the heart of the Goddard Axis and consists of a massive complex. At its core, the complex has 2 single-track tunnels that connect Bodio with Erstfeld, with the track passing under Sedrun in order to arrive at its destinations. The GBT is part of the NRLA project, which is short for the New Railway Link through the Alps. Referred to as a base tunnel, the GBT bypasses most of the Goddard Railway line that already existed, which was operating at full capacity until the new tunnel was opened. In total, the Goddard Railway line has 36 tunnels, all of which make up a distance of 102,415 feet, or just shy of 20 miles. The new tunnel, however, establishes a direct path that can be utilized by heavy freight trains and high-speed rail. The GBT's main purpose is to increase the total transport capacity through the Swiss Alpine barrier, especially along the Rotterdam-Basel-Genoa corridor. But more specifically, the GBT will help shift freight volumes from trucks to more efficient freight trains. By doing this, the danger of fatal road crashes caused by trucks will be significantly reduced, and so too will the environmental damage that's typically caused by heavy trucks. The GBT also provides a far faster connection between Ticino and the rest of the country, as well as between the northern and southern parts of Europe, cutting down travel time for passenger trains by a full hour. Number 2. Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Completed in February of 2018, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, or HZMB, consists of a series of 3 cable-stayed bridges, 4 artificial islands, and an undersea tunnel. It's 34 miles in total and is both the longest open-sea fixed link and the longest sea crossing in the entire world. The bridge spans the Zhuzhou and Lingding channels and connects the 3 major cities along the Pearl River Delta: Macau, Zhuhai, and Hong Kong. Designed to last 120 years, the HZMB has a budget of roughly $18.8 billion, and the cost of constructing the main bridge alone was estimated at $7.56 billion, funded by the governments of Hong Kong, mainland China, and Macau. It was originally slated to be finished in late 2016, but it took an extra year for it to be fully completed, finally opening to the public on October 24, 2018. The bridge was first proposed in the 1980s by Gordon Wu, the founder of Hopewell Holdings, a major property developer based in Hong Kong. The inspiration for the HZMB apparently came from the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, which opened in 1964. The Advanced Work Coordination Group was then established in 2003 in order to coordinate the project. And in August of 2008, the central government of China, as well as the governments of Macau and Guangdong, Hong Kong, agreed to finance a whopping 42% of the total costs of the bridge. The remaining 58% was covered by bank loans from the Bank of China. Construction on the bridge's Chinese side began on December 15, 2009, but the HZMB's Hong Kong section didn't start until December 2011, after a legal challenge delayed their initial start date. The last bridge tower was built on June 2, 2016, and 14 days later, the 15,940-foot straight section of the HZMB's undersea tunnel was completed. However, the final tunnel joint wasn't installed until May 2, 2017, and the main bridge was finished in early July of that same year. But by February 2018, the whole thing was done, only losing 19 workers along the way. And at number 1, Samsung Semiconductor Factory. In the modern world, everyone relies on semiconductors. Computers, smartphones, cars, medical equipment, and televisions all rely on semiconductors to function. And so, it makes sense that the new Samsung Semiconductor Factory would have a budget of over $25 billion. The electronics company based in South Korea is currently building a new plant in Taylor, Texas, just 30 miles northeast of Austin. This undertaking is apparently the company's largest investment they've ever made in the U.S. The massive 1,200-acre project is slated to cover 6 million square feet upon completion. Work was supposed to begin in 2022, but due to inflation, costs for the building materials like glass and concrete rose from 8.3% to 22.2% compared from February 2021 to February of 2022. This alone seems to have delayed construction, despite the company's claims of still being on their projected timeline. According to Samsung, the new factory will manufacture advanced logic semiconductors, or advanced computer chips, which are typically used in phones and other electronics. Once they break ground on the new facility, it will be one of the largest construction projects in the world. Which of these mega projects would you most like to visit? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.